So you just got some new webbing for a new backplate and wing system, or you've been doing rather well on your diet and you need to cut some webbing off. How do you clean up the rough edge if you need to cut some of that webbing clean? How do you keep it clean and prevent it from fraying? Hi all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to the Scuba Diving Magazine channel and welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A, where I'm Mark, a former dive instructor, doing my best to answer your scuba diving questions. If you do have any scuba diving questions, pop them down in the comment section underneath this video, anything to do with scuba diving, and pop this Ask Mark hashtag into your comment to get it featured in an up and coming video, and I'll do my best to type out an answer before the video comes out, so you do get an answer before you don't have to wait for the entire video to come. But yeah, your question might be useful for other divers. So yeah, if it's a really cool question, I'll turn it into a video. But yeah, today I'm answering a question from Luke about cleaning up webbing. So Luke says, "Hi Mark, I got myself some new webbing for my backplate, but now that I have exchanged it, it's a little too long. How do I shorten it properly without having it fray at the ends?" Looking forward to your answer. Yeah, so if you've got a brand new BCD or like backplate and wing system and you've just threaded it, typically they give you more webbing than not enough. You get a long length of webbing, and unless you are built like the Hulk, you're not going to need all of it, so you do need to trim some off. So if you've just started, then I usually recommend leaving the one that they've done at the factory, the end, for your right hand waistband, because it's usually the neatest, and that way it goes into that quick release buckle much smoother. So I know it seems a bit counterproductive. It kind of makes sense to start at the other end, at the actual buckle end, and then you just have the loose webbing and just cut off any excess. I do it the other way around, just so that I keep that clean, like pre-manufactured edge. And yeah, re-thread the entire harness system, and then once you've figured out how much you need to cut off, try it on again with everything that you're going to be wearing, and maybe even go for a dive with it just to make sure, because once you cut it off, you can't put any back, so you want to make sure that you have exactly enough. I usually give myself a few inches as well, just to be sure. I want to be able to make small adjustments and add a little bit extra if I need to. It's the, what is it, measure twice, cut once. But yeah, to actually make the cut, you need a really sharp knife or a pair of like safety shears I tend to use, because they tend to have a pretty clean cut, or yeah, a real razor blade, because you want as little of this fluffy stuff as possible. So I usually put it down on a cutting mat, cut through that, or use those trauma shears, and as soon as I've done that, I'll prepare a metal plate. It's usually a old like a palette knife or something, just a piece of metal or something cold, basically, because what we want to do is, as soon as it's melted, you want to squish it and flatten it as much as possible, because if you just melt it with a lighter, then it gets quite rounded and bulbous, and there's quite a lot of like chunk to it, so trying to thread it through some hardware can be quite tricky. So if you can, it's better if you can like clamp it. So I usually have this kind of ready to push down on it, and then a second piece of metal just to really flatten it. And yeah, with a cigarette lighter, just melt down the long fluffy bits. Once you get down to this kind of section, you want to take it a little easy. You want it to melt, but not catch a light, because if you hold the flame too close, it will actually catch a light and then burn from itself, and then it smokes. So once it is kind of like this, then flatten it against the metal and use the second piece just to kind of stroke it, as it were, and flatten it. That way it's you get a nice clean edge. Any outliers, just clean up with some trauma shears and melt it back. But yeah, spend a little bit of time with this. Especially if it is a leading edge, if it's your right hand waistband, then yeah, clean it up. But If it's going to be the tucked away end, then you can do something a little rougher, shall we say. But yeah, it's cigarette lighter and then like a big flat piece of metal that can take the heat and sort of push it against it. That's what I tend to use. Or like if I've got a decent sized knife and I'm sort of in the field, you can do that. But yeah, it's basically melt it and then squidge it. It's the same for cave line. If you're attaching bolt snaps, you want to melt any excess down so it doesn't fray, and then you squidge it in with something metal so that it flattens, and then it won't pull through that knot. Yeah, it's a pretty simple procedure. If you've never seen it before, then yeah, you just want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. That's how I was taught, and that's how I teach you how to do it. The manufacturers will probably use a heat knife, a specific tool that has like a wire that just heats up with electricity, and it just kind of slices through. It melts as it cuts, and then they just trim it and keep it nice and clean. But most people don't have that, don't have a need for one at home. So yeah, just a really sharp knife, a lighter to melt it down, and then yeah, just 2 pieces of metal, flat metal, so that you can squidge it and clean up that edge. Yeah, the first time you do it, it's probably not going to be that neat, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, with enough practice, and I usually keep all these offcuts so that you can practice. And yeah, because you don't want all this fraying. It will eventually undo the entire thing if you don't melt it, so it's very important that you do actually clean that leading edge. But yeah, something like that is something that you're after. I used to get quite creative and cut a corner off as well, so that you can do a semicircle and all those kind of stuff, or arrow point. Yeah, I've seen it all, but nowadays I just go for a square flat edge, and yeah, that tends to go through the quick release buckle. The pointed one, the one with the corner taken off, I just found it was a little bit easier to thread through a quick release buckle if I was wearing gloves. It's arguably easier, but yeah, each to their own. If you want to get creative, by all means get creative, but yeah, nowadays I just stick for a flat square cut. Any other tips or recommendations, by all means pop them down in the comment section underneath this video. Any other questions as well, pop them down in the comment section. Remember to use this hashtag in your comment, beginning or the end, it doesn't really matter as long as it's there, and it just highlights it behind the scenes so that I know that it's there. Otherwise, remember to head over to our websites, and because yeah, we're streamlining everything. You can go to scubadivingmag.com, but I think it just redirects you to Dive.net now, because we're just focusing on that. But yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that good social media stuff. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.